Hello, I'm Dr. Bandana Balchandani, Department of English, DAV PG College. Today, I will do the discussion of Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf, an essayist, remarkable novelist, influential literary critic of early part of 20th century, by deft of her craftsmanship and novelty of subject, excelled in modernist writing and feminist writing. There is a remarkable originality and distinction in her themes and subjects, and the way she has adopted the narrative technique that is of a stream of consciousness so successfully. Woolf surpassed most of her contemporaries in sensitive fidelity to the most evanescent movements of consciousness. In human consciousness, there are various thoughts, impressions, emotions continuously passing in a state of flux, and these are momentary, evanescent means fleeting, passing, brief. This Virginia Woolf has captured with fidelity, with authenticity, and here lies her greatness. The whole of the novel, Mrs. Dalloway, conveys poignantly Woolf's response to success in reflecting how, in a big city, people's paths cross and dramas go on within range of dramas. And yet, in spite of innumerable points of superficial contact and relation, each drama is isolated and each individual is locked within walls of private experience. It means an individual is a part of society. He or she communicates with the society. But more than that, one communicates with oneself. So, connection of self with the self is highlighted more in the writings of Virginia Woolf. Mrs. Dalloway is a complex, compelling, and impressive novel. It shows brilliance and fineness in its execution. It was published in 1925. The First World War is over, so its effect, its the destruction, damage, disillusionment caused by it is presented in the novel. There are the two ways the effect of World War is being presented. The outer facade of this civilization, its glitters, its material achievements, its pomp and show, its hypocrisy is being presented through the character of Clarissa and her social circle. Its hollowness, neurosis, boredom, ennui, sterility, spiritual death that are represented through the character of Septimus. The story is set on a single day. The story begins early in the morning and ends with the in the party of when the party of Clarissa is over. So, a single day story in London in June 1923. It examines one day in the life of Clarissa Dalloway and other characters with whom she is connected directly, indirectly, emotionally, or psychologically. She is an upper class Londoner, a married woman of 52. She is not a young, tender heroine as generally been presented in traditional literature. Woolf here refutes the tradition by making an aged lady as a heroine of her novel. In art, the preference is always given to young ladies. The married ladies, the old ladies, the exhausted one, they have not been given the place of attention and of significance in the novel. Clarissa Dalloway, she is a married woman. She marries to a member of parliament, Richard Dalloway, who is a quite gentleman who holds a government post. Based on character's consciousness, the story of Mrs. Dalloway is remarkably simple, even though it moves on two levels. There are two narratives in the novel. One is related with Clarissa and one is related with Septimus. On one level, we are presented with a single summer's day in the lives of several characters. For Clarissa herself, the day is largely taken up with the preparation for her party, but several other minor concerns occupy her mind too. She is visited by her old friend Peter Walls, whose offer of marriage she rejected several years back. Peter's visit leads her to think back over the course of her life, to consider whether rejecting him for Dalloway was in fact the right decision. She is perturbed by a haunting question. Has she made a right decision in life by rejecting Peter Walls? Now she thinks her marriage with Richard Dalloway. She questions herself. Is she a support to her husband? The very root of feminism lies in the quest for identity, in the quest for privacy of female protagonists, and in their doubts, in their dilemma of choice. Like Shashi Deshpande in that Long Silence, Dark Holes No Terror, she talks about the doubts, or in most of her novels talks about the doubts of female protagonists. Here Clarissa Dalloway, she is also disturbed by her choice of husband, her decision. She is here confronted with her own decision. She recognizes that Peter would have been always analyzing and criticizing her, and that Dalloway gives her the emotional free space, her attic room. Attic is a part of a house which is secluded. So this seclusion is related with the privacy, with the personal space, and for which any man or woman can sacrifice anything. Everybody wants it. The relationship between Clarissa and Peter underwent a constant tension between love and freedom. This brings us to a consideration of another psychological factor. The human soul wants love, craves love, wants to love and be loved, but it also wants privacy and independence of one's own. The novel studies this psychological antithesis between love and freedom in the individual soul through three characters: Peter, Doris Kilman, and Dr. Bradshaw. These three characters, they are possessive. They want to possess the souls of others. That's why they are being criticized. Instead of Peter, Clarissa chose to marry Richard because she thought Peter would not give the kind of freedom which was essential for happiness. Again, Peter could understand the importance of her emotional need. So Clarissa thought if she would marry Peter, he would have engulfed her and forced her soul. Quote, "For in marriage, a little license, a little independence there must between people living together day in and day out in the same house, which Richard gave her, and she him. Where was she this morning, for instance? Some committee, she never asked what. But with Peter, everything had to be shared, everything gone into." Unquote. Clarissa rejects Peter because his love is too possessive and he's too demanding and too dominating. Here, Woolf is projecting a very universal aspect in any relationship. Every individual wants love, but with that, the privacy also. If the privacy is been not provided, freedom is not provided in any relationship, then that relationship gets collapsed. In the novel, Clarissa's relationship with her husband, Richard Dalloway, proved to be a failure. Richard was so preoccupied with politics more than his wife. In response to his loyalty to the social duties of upper class, he left his wife for a meeting that he did not care about. Again, we find Richard was invited to Lady Burton's party without his wife. He goes away without showing any consideration for his wife. Clarissa suffers for that. Through Clarissa, Richard relationship, Woolf here emphasizing that marriage is not a guarantee of a happy relationship or of a mutual understanding between a husband and a wife in a patriarchal society, even while living under the same roof. These two relationships, Clarissa Peter, Clarissa Richard, it reveals the position of women in this male-dominated and patriarchal society. The men have never shown that kind of respect or dignity towards women that have been shown through these two characters. Both the males, Peter and Richard, viewed Clarissa as a woman inferior and insignificant. Peter never wanted to understand Clarissa. Rather, he was deeply interested in his own affairs. Quote, "It was the state of the world that interested him. Wagner, Pope's poetry, people's characters eternally, and the defects of her own soul." Unquote. Peter scolds, taunts Clarissa, and his taunting, his criticism, blunt criticism, hurts her. Even her husband, he is also involved in his own world. He considers her only as a typical wife, as a perfect hostess. See, so she is disturbed by her choice. She has rejected passionate, adventurous, very loving lover. She accepted Richard, but even she has not got that happiness which she was expecting. Apart from personal and social relationship, Clarissa is also disturbed by various other aspects of the life. She thinks that this life is full of meaninglessness, and she is in apprehension with upcoming old age. She is in fear with her old age. Okay. Apart from this personal and social life, any sensitive woman with philosophical brooding is always disturbed by her own thoughts. In the narrative, we can observe a sense of gloom behind her gaiety, her zest for life, her party, her enthusiasm. At one level, we see Clarissa making an arrangement for her party. Another level, running parallel to the account of Clarissa's party, we have Septimus, the last day of his life. The double plots impart richness and variety to the novel. Though the two characters not meet, Clarissa and Septimus, both of them, act as doubles in the novel. Septimus is a World War I veteran in his 30s. He suffers from shell-shocked or post-traumatic stress disorder. So what is this? When after a trauma is completed, has taken place, the person who has undergone this trauma suffers from a kind of mental disorder, a stress. So that has been called post-traumatic stress disorder. Is a mental health condition that is triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Septimus was once an inspiring poet, but after enlisting in the war for idealistic reason and the death of his close friend and officer Evans, Septimus became unable to feel emotion. Septimus feels condemned by human nature and is often suicidal and thinks that he has been condemned by the world to die for his failure to feel. He married Lucrezia. She also suffers from loneliness, suffers from her husband's mental illness. She consulted 2 doctors, and these 2 doctors are no help to her or her husband because they are very practical, insensitive and worldly. So rather than helping Septimus, they have created problems for him. Septimus dies in order to escape what he perceives to be an oppressive social pressure to conform. Virginia Woolf's work, Mrs. Dalloway, is a very complex work. Various themes, subjects, points of views are interwoven together. The most important point of view or the thought which she is presenting here, that is related with feminism. The novel basically focuses feminine sensibility, outlook, dilemma, gyno problems, helplessness, sexuality of women's life, and how these are being shaped by the moral, ideological and conventional factors. It is very strongly visible in the name of the heroine. She has, or in her life, the various facets of Clarissa Dalloway is presented here. She as a young lover, as a young girl, as a beloved of Peter Walsh, as a mother of Elizabeth Dalloway, as a wife of Richard Dalloway, as a friend of Sally Seton and Hugh Whitebread, as a mistress of the house, how affectionately she takes care of her servants, and then a hostess who throws glamorous party. By her emphatic use of Mrs., Virginia Woolf draws our attention to the way in which the central woman character is socially defined by her marriage and masked by her marital signature. Woolf was well aware that, as feminist theory now puts it, quote, "The name of the husband is one of the strongest insignia of patriarchal power," unquote. The novel presents a full range of women through 7 ages of women. Elizabeth Dalloway is almost 18. She is the daughter of Clarissa. Through her, the writer is pointing out the mother's concern for their children. Lucretia Warren Smith, young Italian wife of Septimus, in her 20s. Through her, the concern of a wife is shown. She feels troubled, she feels lonely in this world when her husband suffers from mental illness. Doris Gilman, she is past 40, religious fanaticism is revealed through her, and Clarissa hates her. She considers her like a monster who wants to possess the very soul of her daughter. Then we have Clarissa and Sally Seton in their 50s. Seton is Clarissa's first close friend. Now she is married and she has 5 boys. In her young age, Sally Seton, she was very outspoken, untraditional, unconventional. But after her marriage, after a long period, she is now conformed to the traditional aspects of the life. Through her, lesbian relationship has been highlighted, the relationship that has been taking place between Clarissa and Sally Seton. Lady Burton, she is the friend of Dalloway, she is of 62 years old. She invited Richard to her house but not to Clarissa, and she suffers because of this also. Finally, there is a nameless old woman Clarissa sees from her window alone, putting out her light and going to bed. The fear of aging, loss and death is focused through this lady. And one dirge, often she repeats or she says, Clarissa says, that is taken from Cymbeline by Shakespeare. Fear no more heat of the sun nor the furious winter rages. Heat of the summer symbolizes or presents the warmth of young age, and the winter symbolizes death, old age, approaching old age. The heat of the sun stands for sexuality, for a kind of feminine blossoming and ripening which peaks in the heat waves of the June day and of the productive cycle and ends in the furious winter of old age. As Clarissa grows older, she reflects more and more on these topics and she stops communicating with the people. So she communicates less and reflects a lot. Woolf has presented explicitly and sensitively both the characters, male and female. There are 2 concepts which she discusses in A Room of One's Own. First is androgynous mind, and second is the preference given to the male experience in creativity. Woolf is of the opinion a woman artist need and, quote, incandescent and androgynous mind in order to rhyme. A great mind contains both a male and female part. There is a fusion of male and female's faculty, and for complete satisfaction and happiness, the two must live in harmony. In each of us, two power resides, one male, one female. Okay, so the androgynous mind is resonant and porous, naturally creative, incandescent and undivided. Virginia Woolf, with faculty of androgyny, successfully projects femininity and masculinity. We have seen the feminine aspect has been presented through the 7 stages of women, and so sensitively she also presents the male characters, their failure, their hollowness, their boredom, or their domineering power. We have here Septimus, shell-shocked veteran, Peter and Dalloway, a failed person, and then we have 2 doctors and Sir William Bradshaw, Dr. Holmes and Hugh Whitebread. So she has presented them also with sensitivity. The another aspect that she discussed in A Room of One's Own is that the masculine values that prevail in literature. This is an important book, the critic assumes, because it deals with war. This is an insignificant book because it deals with the feelings of women in drawing room. So the experience of men like war, peace or other such issues which are related with the society, those issues, values are always been highlighted. But the experiences which are related with women are always been rejected, always been looked down upon. So here in the text she is talking about war, a male issue. The male, they give importance to it. But she talks not the glory of the war. She doesn't highlight it, but rather she reveals the damage, the destruction that has been caused by this war. Septimus, who first idealizes the values of war, suffer a lot later on with his false pride and notion. Then Woolf talks about duality of existence, of life. In the novel, she presents a tension between beauty and transience, between cheerfulness and murkiness, between communication and privacy. One side she presents Dalloway's party, its mirth, gaiety, enjoyment. The other side, loneliness, helplessness, neurosis of the people like Septimus and his wife Rhizia, and how Septimus committed suicide. Some other significant aspects of this text is related with the technique which she has used it successfully, that is stream of consciousness technique, space and time, the connectivity, unity in its fragment, a woman's confrontation with the femininity, sexuality and identity, along with her meditation on aging, loss and death and other such topics I will discuss in next lecture. Since then, goodbye. Thank you.